Salutations everybody, it is Maddie here today, and I think this is going to be a fun one for y'all. Every year I sit down and do my top 10 worst games of the year, top 10 best games of the year. That's been a staple on the channel for over a decade now. Just last year we added games I'm looking forward to playing in the next year. We'll be doing that again this year. But what I wanted to add to the mix of yearly roundups is a fun one here. We'll see how it goes. But I want to talk about games you may have missed, games that may have flown under your radar. So yes, this is going to be a list composed of mostly indie and AA games, some familiar names for sure, but I want to bring games to your attention that maybe don't get mainstream media attention, maybe I didn't even cover myself, that I can give an opportunity here for you to see them and go check them out. Especially around this time of year, a lot of sales are going on places like Steam. All of the platforms are holding different holiday sales, New Year's sales, and whatnot. So it's a good time to check out some new games. Maybe you got some Christmas cash you want to spend. And so I just want to put some more under the radar suggestions onto the map because I looked at all these games and I'm like, man, like some of these I did talk about, some of these I couldn't, some of these I didn't have an opportunity to, or I only found about very late in the year. I just want to give them that chance, let you hear about them, and decide for yourself from there. So welcome everybody. Make your suggestions down below. Let's begin. Game number 1, Toown, A Different Story. Do you like Stranger Things? Cool. Do you like Persona? The answer better be yes. I love Persona. So this game basically fuses those ideas together. For some people, this does fly a little too close to the sun, but I've always said this, that many games try to emulate the Persona experience, but always fail. And I feel like Toown gets it. They have a beautiful voiced battle track. The art style is wonderful. And it's one of those blender games that I can really appreciate. Like, okay, you like Persona, but you like Stranger Things, and you're trying to see how these two can live together. And yeah, you're going to go into these dungeons, you're going to get these creatures, aka your Personas effectively, and use them in battle. And it's a really cool game. I played it on Switch. It's about like 20 bucks. And I think if you're a Persona fan and you're looking for more of that this year, I know we had Persona 3 Reload, we had Metaphor. There's been a lot of Persona-like games, but I don't think all of them have been fantastic. So I just want to put this one on your radar if you're looking for an indie gem that kind of represents that experience really well and does some different things with it. Now, not all these games are technically under the radar in the terms of brand, but I want to shout out that this has been a great year for Ninja Turtle games. And as someone who has been a lifelong Ninja Turtle fan, this has been possibly the best year of Ninja Turtle games. We got the best ever game under the TMNT license, in my opinion, in Splinter Fate. I adore this game, and it definitely is on my Game of the Year list. I think it is so much fun mixing together Hades, which is one of the best roguelike beat-em-ups you can play, and TMNT. TMNT has always had the DNA of beat-em-ups, and I do want to see them veer outside of it. But even a game like Shredder's Revenge did go back to the same well that so many TMNT games do. Hey, Turtles in Time was great, and I agree. Look at the arcade cabinet right here behind me. I love Turtles in Time. It's one of my favorite games ever. But we have to move forward from when that game had come out. It's time to evolve. And so many games just fall into that trap of time travel, of 2D beat-em-ups. And I feel like Splinter Fate resists those trends and evolves the ideas in the right way. It's still a beat-em-up like you know in all of your favorite Turtle games, but it is also a really good story. You have Yuri Lowenthal as Michelangelo. You have Nolan North as Raphael, like an amazing voice cast. Heartfelt deliveries on all these lines, and as you would expect in a Hades-like experience, as you finish your runs, you go back to the lair and you start talking with more characters that are appearing in the Ninja Turtle lair, and you're getting more layers to this story. It's got a great end game. It's a ton of fun. It's got crossplay. They're doing more DLC for it not only this year but next year, so you can play it on Switch or you can play it on PC. Wherever your friends are, you can play together. So I think this is one not enough people are talking about. If you like roguelikes, play it. If you like TMNT, my God, what are you doing? Go play it. But also, there was another one that was really interesting. It's not as good, but it's TMNT Mutants Unleashed. This was a sequel, effectively, to the movie that came out recently, and I have to say, it did win me over a little bit. I absolutely abhor these Ninja Turtle designs. I grew up with the 2003 cartoon, and I love the OG cartoon, but 2003 Ninja Turtles will always and forever be my favorites. It's just the mature style of Ninja Turtles I grew up with a little bit of humor. I've fallen into the comics. That's really where I live with the Ninja Turtle world now, and I definitely love different iterations of the Turtles, but these ones, I think, need some work in the terms of winning people like me over. But this game did a great job with some of that. Like, I loved the art style over time. I kind of saw that Spider-Verse inspiration people were talking about. I went, okay, hold on. I don't think the voice acting or the actual personalities of the Turtles work really well in this game. But what I thought was really surprising amidst this, of course, beat-em-up game is that it also has Persona social links. And I realize, yes, I'm showing my diehard Persona fandom here, but look, man, like this mechanic always gets me. Like, oh, I get to enjoy the quiet time with characters I care about. That's really cool. So to see like Raphael bonding with characters was awesome. It was really, if you love the idea of it, you might really enjoy this game, which I do. If you want incredible execution on said idea and gripping storytelling, this game isn't going to provide that. But again, I think it flew under the radar. It was not a full price game at launch, but it was basically a sequel to the movie that in the comment section of my review impressions video for Retro Rebound, a lot of people said I need to stop sleeping on. I will get around to it eventually, but right now I will remain in my closed-minded bubble, and maybe I'll like the game more afterwards. But let's get into another indie suggestion in 1000 Times Resist. This is a really interesting one where it's a sci-fi adventure game made by a theater group that switched to game development during the pandemic. It snuck out toward the end of this year, and I have not played much of it, but the music is incredible, the world is really interesting, and what everyone is saying is, oh my God, that was such an intense emotional experience. You know, multiple endings, real choice. It reminds me a little bit, if I were to draw a comparable to Danganronpa in gameplay execution, as in you're going to be doing a lot of walking around and talking, and the gameplay is very light gameplay, but it's engaging enough to keep you there for the 10+ hour runtime. It seems to fall into that pocket like another game on this list I'll bring up, where the less you know, the better, and just go in, play, and get taken on an incredible ride. The basic premise is you don't know what year it is, there's a disease spreading by an alien invasion, you're this character called Watcher, and you're serving the All-Mother until you discover something that changes everything. So really interesting synopsis on it, but just one of those things where it's $15. Go ahead and check it out for yourself. All right, let's get into a little bit more familiar territory before we dip back into more independent games. I want to tell you about Visions of Mana. This one is a sad story. The game came out, and the same day it finally came out, the developer shut down. Yeah, like really tragic. We saw so many studio closures, so much outrage for it, but no one was really pissed off, I feel, when they saw Visions of Mana's team shut down. It was like, oh, darn, man, that's unfortunate. It feels really cruel, especially in today's climate, especially when you release a good game and you get punished for it on day one. You don't even get the chance to see how the sales do. Can it recover at all? But this is a great action RPG. It has over 100 tracks to its soundtrack. It's available on all platforms. Like, they did everything right, I think. They did everything right. It's not going to be the best JRPG you play in a year of incredible JRPGs, but if you love a good action RPG, you love incredible music, you love that colorful, vibrant art style the Mana series brings, this is more of that. And it's a really good game. I played a decent amount of it when it came out, and I think a lot of people should check this one out. It's just a shame because it's one of those investments you kind of make knowing I'm unsure what the future here is, and I'm almost afraid to love this thing because if I do, I know that the team who made it got dealt a cruel hand, and I'd rather live in an ignorant little bubble. I want to shout out another one here. The Dragon Ball Super card game. For those of you who are deep-cut, long-term Mr. Matty viewers, you will know that I adored the Dragon Ball Super card game and used to play it every single Wednesday for like 3 years. Then the pandemic hit, my local scene shut down, and I could not play it. And for years beforehand, I was begging for Bandai to do some sort of digital card game format. And oh my God, they finally did it, but I was really nervous at first because they ended up splitting the games into two. So now there's a Masters version, which is what I used to play in person. And there's now this new version here called Fusion World, which is available on computers. And I think Bandai has done a horrible job marketing this thing, putting it out there for anybody to play because you have to go to Bandai's website and download an individual client for it. I talked about it a little bit in my Remembering the Dragon Ball Z games video to commemorate the life of Akira Toriyama and just how his work has influenced the games that I adore so deeply. But it's there I just highlight that this is one of the most addicting card games I have ever played. You have basically Magic the Gathering here, where you get all of your cards and they can turn into energy, and then they all have these crazy effects that have like really great chemistry with one another, and so you can make awesome deck builds. And I remember just sitting on my bedroom floor just years ago, just laying out my cards, building decks, being excited for next Wednesday to put it together. Like, this game gets its hooks into you, and it's a really good time. Of course, it helps loving Dragon Ball. I love the card game physically as well because the art for it is beautiful, and to own them, and I grade some of them, it's awesome. But just playing it digitally, having that option, it's really good. And I really encourage you to check it out. It's beginner friendly. The current season, at least at the time of recording this, in season 4, has been awesome. And I've just been enjoying it quietly on the side as I rotate through games. It's a really good time. So give it a look if you're into card games like, say, Magic the Gathering. When I was putting together this list, this is one I have not played, admittedly, but I was so shocked to see it exist. And that's Rivals of Aether. So Rivals of Aether 1, I remember playing for, here's another deep cut Mr. Matty moment here. I remember playing it in our friendly competition series. We did a series of fighting games. We all got into costume. It's one of my favorite videos I've ever made for this channel. And one of the games we played, because we were looking for 3 Smash style games. So we played Cartoon Network Battle XL or some crazy stuff like that. And one of the games we also played was the first Rivals of Aether, which when we played on a whim, we're like, wait, this is actually really good. They've always been this kind of indie competitor to Smash, and then the sequel is very Smash Melee like, and in a world where I think the only competitor we've seen on like a big level is Nick All-Star Brawl, particularly the sequel being really great. Seeing Rivals of Aether 2 kind of show up and show out and come out this year, I mean, the reviews were excellent, the gameplay looks great. I picked it up because I'm like, yo, I really want to check this one out at some point, but I love me a good 2D Smash clone. I'm all about that. But a lot of people think like Rivals of Aether is better than Smash. So definitely if you are into Smash style games and you want to get into the latest indie hit in the Smash scene, check this one out. Here's a different one, Harold Halibut. This is a game that was made truly by hand using stop motion. So all the objects you see in the game were physically created before being scanned in to 3D game assets. And most of the animations you see were actually captured and then rigged on 3D puppets. So the developer was actually making like an animation library as time went on. But this is a game that was in development for over a decade, 12 years to be exact. And my wife's actually the one who picked this game up and tried it out. I remember covering it on Defining Duke and be like, right, like whatever. But she tried it out because she saw it on Game Pass and she fell in love with it. And I watched her play it and I kind of fell in love with it. You know, it's a really charming story that I want to leave as much to it as I can for your own discovery. But basically humanity has left Earth. They're colonizing another planet. And there's this company called Allwater who's kind of muddying the waters, to put it lightly. And I'll leave it there, but it's a really interesting story on colonialism, capitalism. Like there's deeper themes than I think you would expect. And the soundtrack is really great. There's just some awesome moments as you're interacting with the environment and these characters that, again, I know I'm talking very surface level here, but it's because it's best to just discover these moments for yourself. It does fall into that indie genre of like walking around and talking, but it also has a really great sense of humor. I will say one thing. There's a part where the gym coach kind of there, or the trainer, is having Harold like run around back and forth down a hallway. And the way the voice line's delivered of him like running out of breath and just being so slow compared to everyone else was really funny. So the game's got a lot of charm and I think you should check it out. Again, it's available on Game Pass, so can't really go wrong there. How about something a little bit more familiar? Epic Mickey Rebrushed. This was one I wanted to check out, like this cool Mickey 3D platformer. It got this little remake, this remaster, and no one really picked it up. It had soft sales performance apparently, and that's a shame because it looked really good. And so this is just one I wanted to throw your way, as well as a deeper cut here in mouthwashing. So this is the third game on the list that goes in that category of like, hey, you might just want to buy the game and not even watch a trailer on it. It's like 3-4 hours long. It really gets into some evil stuff. The type of media I think people are really looking for nowadays, like treat me like an adult. Give me the darkest things you can imagine. And this game provides it and then some with a really wild psychological trip. It's insane. So I'll leave it as a short run here and just let you check that out for yourself. It's another one that's kind of like 1,000 Times Resist, where it's a cheap game that you can go ahead, check out, kind of take a flyer on it and feel comfortable if you end up not liking it. But speaking of comfortable, I don't know if you'll feel that way with mouthwashing, but that's a whole other story. Next up, I want to shout out one of my favorite developers, Falcom. They are the developers of the East series and the Trails series, and they have entries in both this year that are fire. So Trails is one of my favorite JRPG series. I've played all 10 plus entries at this point, and I adore it. And my favorite entry in the series came out this year. And next year, the first entry in the series is getting remade in Trails in the Sky 1. So if you are interested in anything you see here from Falcom when it comes to the Trails series, next year is a good time to put on your training wheels and get that all started. So Trails through Daybreak came out in January of this year, and it's just an answer to everything I love about the franchise. I'll also be talking about this in my Game of the Year video, so I'll keep it brief, but they get a lot more darker than the earlier entries of the series did. The music is wonderful. The protagonist kicks ass. I mean, there's the writing. It's just so much better across the board. It's a true evolution of everything I loved about Trails. Meanwhile, East has been running even longer than Trails, and East 10 gives you a ship. It allows you to just run around with crazy action combat that's kind of Sekiro inspired in this really weird way. It's got a lot of exploration. It's really good. So if you're looking for more of the anime Indiana Jones experience, you got it here in East. I do have some more random off-the-wall suggestions for you, but I want to shout out Disney Dreamlight Valley. I've been playing a lot of it this year, and look, I know y'all are scoffing at me, but it's got traditional DLC support, so it's doing the full paid model, none of this live service crap. You can buy and own the game. Like, all that stuff's good. But if you like Animal Crossing and you got a little bit of that Disney love in your heart still left, you should check this out. It's a game that you'll laugh at first and be like, yeah, okay. But as you go deeper into it, look, I made a whole video on it, Retro Rebound, and everyone in the comments are like, yeah, I played this game. I have 2,000 hours now. I played this game. I have 900 hours now. It's a game that if you let it get its hooks into, if you're looking for the dangerous game, the game that you may have ignored that will absorb all of your free time, Disney Dreamlight Valley is that. And it's available on Switch, so you can play it on the go if you want. It's on Steam. It's wherever you want. So I just want to shout it out. I really enjoyed going around Dreamlight Valley, fixing things up, going to different realms, meeting many of my favorite Disney characters, bringing them back to the valley, expanding the valley further. It's just a really addicting loop. Next up on the indie suggestion list, we got Neva. This is one that's very Journey-like. You're wandering through a somewhat sick, abandoned world. You have this bond with this spiritual deer. And it's the type of game that you look at the trailer and you go, I'm going to cry. Okay. So if you're looking for a game that's going to pull those heartstrings, check this one out. I don't want to leave Nintendo out of the fun. They had a lot of random games this year. This has been an interesting year for Nintendo, where most of the conversation surrounding this company has not been about like a direct. It's not been about any real big exclusives. It's really been about the Switch too, but there were some interesting exclusives that you may have forgotten about. There was one that was going viral until people found out what it was and lost interest, but oh my god, it's an M-rated first-party Nintendo game. It's Emio, the Smiling Man Famicom Detective Club. A lot of people were like, hell yeah! And a lot of people were like, hell no, what is this? If you like visual novels, this is definitely a very old game, so you want to keep that in mind, that it's a little bit of slow going, but these like murder mysteries, detective stories. And so if you're looking for that sort of experience on your Switch, you can pick that up. There was a Mario vs. Donkey Kong remake that came out earlier this year that people thought were kind of interesting. So if you want that classic gaming vibe, that's there. And then there's Princess Peach Showtime, which I thought was kind of fun. Like, it's got a lot of different abilities that you use per stage. Like, you can play as a ninja at one point. I don't know. I thought it was pretty cool. Not my favorite Nintendo Switch exclusive, but I thought it was interesting if you're looking to dip your toe into something a little bit different. Just got a couple more recommendations coming your way. These are bigger games. Banisher's Ghost of New Eden came out earlier this year. It was an evolution of the ideas Vampire had, and I really dug it. I wish more people got a chance to check it out. I think Vampire, when it came to the PS4, Xbox One generation, was one of the best RPGs of that generation. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Not only did the world do a lot for me, but the reactivity you got out of the different sectors of that world based on, but the reactivity you got out of the game based on who you pissed off in different sectors of the world and who you helped out and who liked you was really cool. Seeing the trees in that game and how everyone's connected. It built upon a lot of those ideas here in Banishers, but also overhauled the combat a little bit, which some people had complaints about in Vampire. And look, I think I was fair and critical of the game where it needed to be, like in its technical state and stuff, but I kind of liked Vampire's combat. I never had a major issue with it. Like, the amount of people hating that combat so much made me go look in the mirror and go like, do I just have extremely low combat standards? Like, I don't think so, but I thought it was totally fine and serviceable. And they evolve upon that here in Banisher's Ghost of New Eden, where you're interacting with these different spirits in this world and you can hunt down these mysteries and learn more about the past of different people and kind of put these spirits to rest. So it's a little bit more of a somber game than what you'd find in Vampire. I hope Vampire gets a sequel, but if you like the Vampire experience, don't miss out on the game from the team that made that for you. There's also one that did stupid well, but I think it's like, if you're looking for a co-op game and there's so much stuff coming out constantly, maybe you went, oh, I want to play that, and then you forgot about it. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. This is definitely me kind of like cheating a little bit, but yeah, this game is a really unique release in that it has like a quick 20-hour story. You're like, whoa, JRPG, 20-hour story. What's going on here? And then you get to the multiplayer, and the multiplayer is like 100 hours of content. There's a lot going on there. So yeah, if you are looking for something to really sink your teeth into with like 3 other friends, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink will have you hooked up properly. Last game I want to suggest, just want to give VR some love to round things out. I think MetaQuest is doing a lot of good stuff. They ported over Triangle Strategy. In all transparency, I did do a sponsored video for that, but I love Triangle Strategy. I reviewed the game when it came out in 2022 and thought it was phenomenal then. I think it's phenomenal now, so I love that they're porting those types of games over and getting that kind of support. But also, they had an amazing exclusive in Batman Arkham Shadow. And while everyone is freaking out about Suicide Squad, and I do get and respect that because I don't like Suicide Squad at all, I look at this game and I'm like, hey, this is really cool, especially for my Arkham fans out there. If you liked Roger Craig Smith's performance as Batman, like, he's back, and this is a follow-up to the Origins game. And so I really like that. But also, the transition from the controller support to VR support is amazing. And the thing that really keeps me up at night when I think about this game is this was the only way we could have gotten a new Arkham game, right? We saw the decision WB made. This was the only way a new Arkham game could get done in VR. And so I was like, well, let me put my support behind it just for the sake of like, cool, I love Arkham. Then I play it and I'm like, this is amazing. I'm really impressed by how well free flow combat works, how well exploration works. It's just really good stuff, man. So VR has had a great year. There's also Metro Awakening. It's a lot of good stuff this time around for VR. And it's growing into a platform where it's not just the gimmick anymore. Like, there's legit full-fledged titles there that do a lot of fun, creative things or iterate on existing IP in interesting ways that you didn't expect. And it's really delivering. So I wanted to shout those out as well in case you're looking at a VR platform, because what's cool is it's not like, oh, it's just Batman Arkham Shadow. It's like, no, there's Asgard's Wrath, I just mentioned, a Metro game, and so many more. Arizona Sunshine got a remake. Like, there's a ton of killer apps now on VR. And as someone who slept on VR for a while and then got the Oculus 3, which that was just such a turning point for me. I was like, oh my God, this thing doesn't weigh like 40 pounds and it's wireless and there's a little bit of mixture of AR in this, so I can kind of see around me while I'm playing, which is something, as someone who has a balance disorder, I struggle with a little bit. So yeah, man, like, it's really good stuff what they're doing there. So I just wanted to shout that out and give a lot of games love here. And so I'm sure there's some I missed. Every year is chock full of games. So I just want to encourage you, shout some out that you've been enjoying that maybe I didn't mention here. Smaller titles, interesting titles. Like, let's celebrate games a little bit. Let me know what you're thinking down below. I'm looking forward to seeing what you have to suggest for me, or any games you want to support on this list that you're like, oh, I didn't think I would check that one out, but I'm going to now. Let me know if there's anything you're picking up. I want to hear from you. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.